Where does our hope reside? Where things going reside? That's with the courts. And there's several court cases out in the country. There's the big one in Texas you probably all heard about. We've talked about here before. There's a similar one in Kentucky, and then the one that is catching some attention right now is the one in Florida. I'm sure there's some other ones as well. Long story short, the CFPB was accused last summer of going too far with their writing of the Reg B regulation to carry out Section 1071. The CFPB actually won that case. So the plaintiffs lost. That was August of 2024. The plaintiffs turn around and they appealed to a district court. That was in November of last year. And between when they made their appeal in November and when the hearing was scheduled to occur, which was February of this year, we had a pretty big change occur. We have a new administration, we have a new president, we have new leadership at the CFPB. And so what was happening is the plaintiffs, like the ABA, the ICBA, and there's a whole lot of others, were saying, hey, we do think that the CFPB went too far, even though they won in a lower court. The CFPB won in a lower court, but now they have new leadership. So when they went before the courts in February, the CFPB stood up and said, we don't agree with ourselves. Hey, we agree with the people that are saying that we went too far. And as you can imagine, the court went, huh? And said, okay, we're going to have to ask you to put that in writing. So the CFPB left the court, and there was a stay involved with that and some other things that won't get a lot of details there. But long story short, they were asked to go put it in writing. They did. The first court that they were then scheduled to go before to present this happened to be this Southern Florida case. And so the CFPB, just a week ago, went before the court and said, here's our request. We no longer agree with the previous people that were in leadership here. We agree with the plaintiffs. So if we could just pause the compliance with this rule for everybody, and we're going to go back and rewrite this thing in a way that we think makes more sense, and we'll give you updates every 90 days while we're doing that. So that's where things stand. They put that all in writing. Now, there's no official statement from the CFPB yet, where they said, hey, we're going to pause this. We're going to put everybody's mandatory compliance dates out there and basically say, don't follow this rule that's currently in place. We're going to write a new one. It's going to take them some time to do that. They said they're going to try to do it as expeditiously as possible. So stay tuned for a formal update or a formal statement from the CFPB. When that comes out, we'll certainly share that with everyone here. So what to do in the interim, while we're waiting for something official, I think you need to give management an update on some of the information we just shared with you here. I think there's some misinformation out there about 1071 being right, like they're going to kill it. Well, there's a small percentage chance that could happen. The more likely option is that we get a rewrite, and then we get new mandatory compliance dates, and we simply kick the can down the road further, and we're all at some point going to have to do Section 1071 based on a rewritten version of it. Now, there's certain things that are in the regulation that likely go away, but I'm going to recommend that you educate yourself on what the law says.